All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to our webinar that's titled New Membership Tier, IPR Considerations and Certification by Inheritance. As a reminder, let's go to the next slide. All attendees will be placed on mute. Please note this webinar is being recorded. If you have a question for our speakers, please post it in the Q&A window. There's a button at the bottom of your screen for Q&A that you click on. Type in your questions there. We will read those and address those after we finish the presentation. And a recording of this webinar will be made available on the Thread Group website. At this time, I'd like to introduce today's speakers. Grant Erickson, President of Thread Group and Principal Software Engineer at Google/Nest. He is a principal engineer at Google in the Nest product area, where he oversees the architecture and technical development of the communications software designed to support Thread and Weave, Google's IoT application framework. He has over 20 years of experience in engineering and product development in the enterprise networking and in the mobile entertainment and communications industries. And he serves on the Thread Group board as president. Also, we have here today Tom Shirelli, who is Director of Certification for Thread Group. He spent nearly 10 years leading product certification and technical operations for Thread Group and Wi-Fi Alliance. And additionally, he has over 15 years of experience in the semiconductor and aviation industries in roles ranging from product engineering to management of quality systems and technology development programs. With that, I will now turn it over to Grant to start the presentation.
Good morning, and thank you, Sujatha. The first topic that we'd like to cover this morning are some changes to membership in the Thread Group that we've recently rolled out. Historically, the Thread Group, since its inception in 2014 and 2015, has comprised 3 and more recently 4 membership tiers. Those include our academic or free membership tier available to qualified academic and nonprofit research institutions. At our lowest level has historically been the affiliate tier, available at $2,500 a year, available for those who simply want to track the status of what's going on in Thread and get a little bit more inside information than is generally available to the general public at large. We have our contributor members at $15,000 a year who make up the backbone of the Thread Group. Our contributors, as the name implies, are those working closely with each other as members, as well as with the board and sponsors, to define and drive each successor specification forward and define what Thread technology actually is. And finally, our top membership tier, the sponsor tier, which is the board of directors at $65,000 a year, is made up of those who really want to have a hand and influence even beyond contributors and really define the overall long-term strategy and roadmap of what the Thread Group is, as well as take advantage and actively participate in the executive administration of the organization at large. But as the Thread Group has grown over the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen demand among membership, and as we move into adoption, a need for a new membership tier nestled between the affiliate and contributor levels. And so, as of end of April, we have introduced what we like to call the implementer tier at $5,000 a year. The implementer tier is really designed for those who are engaging in Thread, not necessarily to simply observe as our affiliates do and not drive the next generation specification forward, but who are really focused on quickly, easily adopting Thread technology and bringing Thread solutions to market at the lowest possible cost. And so the implementer really fuses together many of the benefits that are available at the contributor level, but are doing so with a slight change to those benefits and doing so at a lower price point. The first and most notable piece of the implementer benefit is that implementers can certainly certify Thread products and solutions. And with the idea that implementers really want to leverage and stand on the shoulders of previously qualified Thread certified components, they can certify their solutions, either derived components or new products, by inheritance by leveraging certified components and products. In addition, by successfully certifying by inheritance, that then gives implementers the same benefits and access to intellectual property rights that are enjoyed by contributor and sponsor members today, and typically, as always with RED, with no royalty payments. Like contributor and sponsor members, they have the ability to purchase the thread test bed, which includes all the hardware that you'll find at an authorized test lab so that you can do pre-testing in-house to verify that your thread certified solutions are going to pass when you actually attempt to do them at the lab, or again, you want to make sure that your inherited certification works well. And then of course you have the option, rather than being included in membership, you have the option to purchase the thread test harness. And our implementer members can participate in general or annual meetings, just like contributor sponsors. However, because of that focus on implementation, they're limited to implementer tracks only, which is really tracks related to our current or adopted specification. Again, with the focus there really being on go-to-market and implementation, as opposed to being focused like contributors or sponsors are, which is on developing the next generation specification. In addition to introducing this new implementer tier at $5,000 a year, we really wanted to improve the value proposition for our affiliate membership tiers. And as of the end of April, we are reducing the price of our affiliate membership from $2,500 a year, bringing it down to $750 a year, really providing an incredible amount of value to getting an inside track on all the things that are going on within the thread group between our newsletters, regular communications, etc. As well as periodic access to draft copies of evolving specifications. So again, for $750, it's really a great way to get that inside track on what's going on in the thread group without having a very high level of engagement. And we think at $750, that is below the signatory threshold for expenses at a lot of companies, and really should allow a lot of organizations to simply join with a swipe of a credit card. We talked about the inheritance certification benefit that's available to implementers. However, it's worth noting that this has been a benefit that has always been available to both contributors and sponsors alike. But with these membership rollout changes, we also wanted to highlight and really emphasize that contributors or sponsors can and have always been able to take advantage of inherited certification status at those membership tiers as well. So as I mentioned, we rolled out these changes to the affiliate tier and introduced the implementer tier at the end of April. So today, if you go to the Thread Group website, you are able to take advantage of signing up as an implementer tier, and the new prices are reflected on our member benefits matrix as well. And quickly recapping those membership benefits that are available on our website. Those are recapped here. We've highlighted in purple some of the key changes relative to the other existing tiers that our implementer members will now enjoy, as well as reflecting those changes in pricing at the affiliate tier. But again, this matrix of membership benefits is also available under the membership section of the Thread Group website. I would encourage all of you to go visit that if you're not familiar with our tiers and benefits today. Next up, I'd like to hand it over to Tom Shirilli, who will talk about inherited certifications with Thread modules.
Thank you, Grant. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tom Shirilli, and I'm going to talk a little bit here in the next few slides about the use of inheritance with Thread modules. These slides were created from recent discussions with several members who approached us with a pretty diverse product portfolio and wanted to understand how they could leverage Thread certification within those portfolios. It's important to note that these, they focus on inheritance. They are illustrative because the inheritance concept is a pretty broad one. It's not very deterministic. There are many unique scenarios, and most of those scenarios have to go through some detailed dialogue with myself in order to understand the applicability of each within inheritance. So keeping that in mind, we will go into these and talk about the concepts here. And really what we're trying to do is illustrate a path, feasible path to take a certification all the way through from the left to the right side of this graphic, which is starting from a thread stack to some kind of a module implementation, and then getting to end products, with the goal always being to lessen the cost and the friction, the difficulty of certifying thread products, and the idea here that this will help to ease adoption, throughout the ecosystem. So what we're illustrating through here, again, a concept that has been there since the beginning, but now we're seeing through these discussions that members have approaches that are feasible. It is now possible to leverage a thread certified stack from the ingredient all the way through to the end product state, while still remaining in compliance with the thread group policies. So the next few slides, I'll dig a little deeper into that. So this slide here has been in circulation for a few months now, and it's just reiterating kind of where we start on the left side of that graphic that we just saw. So it is feasible for thread modules to inherit the certification of the stack, the foundational stack. And the concept here to keep in mind is that when we are awarding certification at the testing level, we're giving that to a system, meaning a stack chip combination or a software hardware combination. So examples that you're pretty familiar with would be open thread stack running on the TI hardware, the ARM stack running on the Atmel hardware, NXP on the KW41, etc. So a module, as we've defined it here loosely, is a standalone device that's more than a single SoC, single system on chip. It may have some additional discrete or supporting components in it, and it typically has a regulatory certification, or it does have one, and then potentially an RF certification as well. So a module is more than just that initial stack piece. But then the key here for reusing the certification through inheritance is that we take that combination and reuse that in the module itself. So in the bottom right graphic here, what you can see is that if your module implementation reuses that stack chip combination, that system that was initially used in testing, we can take that forward and certify that module implementation by inheritance. If either of those pieces has not been involved in a certification before at a test lab, then this would not apply, and the module implementation would need to be tested by an ATL or an authorized test lab. So that is the left side there, the ATL testing by stack vendor. Now we're going to talk about moving to the right side of this picture and focus the next several slides here. And again, with the outcome being here that end products and dev kits, et cetera, certainly may be certifiable by inheritance if they are based on certified modules. So we'll talk through that briefly here on the next couple of slides. So the key thing as we're talking about inheritance in general is that the initial functionality that was tested needs to be protected, it needs to be ensured. So when we're talking about the concept of a module, a certified module, that we now want to leverage forward into an end product state, the key thing is that we have to ensure that the module that is inside the end product truly does contain the stack that was certified back at the authorized test lab. And then additionally, we must ensure that the end product maker does not have a way to modify the functionality of that certified stack beyond what was tested, again, that envelope that was tested back at the authorized test lab. So there are different ways to do it, and this is where, in an inheritance application, we would get into a dialogue to help me understand how those 2 points are satisfied. But the idea is that with the right abstraction of the functionalities, say at an app layer or an OS layer, an operating system layer, the functionality of the stack itself can be ensured, and through the right, again, approach to maintaining or managing the ingredient stack code, the first part can also be satisfied. So with those approach is ensured, it is feasible to take an inheritance all the way through from the left side to the right side to end product deployments. Okay, so now we're going to drill down closer on the right side. So we're going to talk about different paths that a specific module could take to market. So again, I've removed the left side, and I'm really zooming in on the right side of that graph or that picture that we looked at before. It's important to describe these paths just so that members understand the different CERT and IPR and membership requirements that exist for each. Of course, they may not all apply, but we wanted to, again, illustrate kind of the whole spectrum here of paths that could be taken. So the way I've got this defined is really two rows. We have a product, it's the same product, whether it's the top row or the bottom row, but in the top row, the product moves across into an internal consumption of the device. Internal meaning whoever has taken that module, they use it in-house for an internal solution or some kind of a research project with some kind of a public entity or something. That implementation is not proceeding forward in a revenue sense. So there's no further fan out, if you will, to other consumers of the product. So that's an internal product. And then the internal product may stop. It may continue on in another form where it's integrated or resold in some other branding or whatever to a variety of customers there, A through F, as I've illustrated. Those implementations take on new forms as end products, and that's really the more detailed and complex picture that we have to look at with respect to CERT and membership requirements and such, which the next slides will talk about a little bit. So this slide is the same one, and all I've done is updated details in terms of membership and certification requirements. So as discussed before, on the top row, an in-house solution ends at that consumption point. So whoever that member is or that company is that's consuming the product for an in-house solution has no further requirements to meet. So there is no specific certification requirement. There's no specific membership requirement for organizations that are consuming internally. Members who resell a product or integrate it into another product, which is then sold down the line, do have further requirements to satisfy. So if we examine that row, starting on the left side with the module maker, again, there's some kind of a certified module, whether it was certified via inheritance or through at an ATL, at a test lab. Depending on how that was done, the module maker would need either an implementer or a contributor membership. If it was inheritance, then an implementer membership would be sufficient. Otherwise, a contributor would have been needed. But the important thing is, by doing that step, by having that membership as well, then the module maker has IP rights for that certified module. And then moving to the right, each of the integrators and the resellers in this concept of inheriting the module certification would then need to acquire an implementer membership and then apply for an inherited certification. And by doing that, then each of those end products and the makers of those end products would receive IP rights for that product. So that ensures that we have the whole chain compliant with the requirements that we have for IP and membership, and allows, again, a pretty complex fan out, for a pretty efficient and manageable solution. It's not the only path, but it is clearly the cleanest way for a member with a complex fan out to satisfy it. So that concludes my section of talking about how to leverage inheritance through the product chain. I will now turn it back over to Grant to dive a little deeper into the intellectual property rights scenarios that tie to this.
Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate the setup. As Tom mentioned, the following section that I'll walk through really is very closely tied to the inheritance certification details that Tom just ran through. It's important to remember whether you're talking about THRED or other standards defining or standard setting organizations, nearly any technology in the market has intellectual property rights associated with it. And whether or not you're engaging from an engineering perspective or a business perspective or a legal perspective, or whether those issues are known up front, invariably some aspects of your organization or your company will have to deal with the intellectual property rights associated with standards defined technologies. And of course, with that said, the THRED group has, since its inception, tried to make intellectual property rights as easy and cost effective as possible. And as we mentioned during membership benefits, one of the key benefits of membership and certifying your THRED solutions is that those solutions are typically available royalty free without additional cost to your organization with the intellectual property rights that are contributed by THRED members. Next slide. Of course, with all that said, the following content does not constitute official legal advice. Viewers are encouraged to engage the services of your own internal or outside counsel to guide you on interpretation and compliance with the THRED Group intellectual property rights policy. In the case of any inconsistency between the information that you'll find in this presentation and the THRED Group intellectual property policy, that document shall be the controlling document. Any organization or product names and scenarios that are described in these presentations are fictitious, and no identification with actual real organizations or products is intended or should be inferred. Any similarity is purely coincidental. Next slide. So to start out, I'd like to talk a little bit of background on why we get questions about intellectual property and kind of what the implications at a very high level of the THRED Group intellectual property policy are. Frequently, we've gotten the question, and this is of course also available on our website in the FAQ, isn't membership in the THRED group enough for intellectual property policy coverage? And the answer, of course, is unfortunately, no, it's not. So what is required? So you need three things, or actually a series of two things, to obtain intellectual property rights to THRED technology. First and foremost, as we've talked about in the presentation today, you need to be an implementer, contributor, or sponsor member, since these are the membership tiers that offer the benefit of certification. Second, you need to achieve successful certification of either your THRED certified component or your built-on THRED product. And as Tom mentioned in the earlier presentation, as we talked about in the implementer membership benefits tier, you can either achieve that certification through inheritance, or you can achieve that certification at one of the many THRED Group authorized test labs around the world. And with the combination of active membership and that combination of successful certification, you then achieve THRED intellectual property rights. But it's important to note that you achieve THRED intellectual property rights for that component or that product only. That intellectual property rights are inherently tied to instances of components or instances of products that you sell or provide commercially. So as we walk through the following four scenarios, I want to describe the four actors that you'll be seeing in each of these scenarios. We have four: a company called Fresh Food, another company called Climate Queen, another called Keep It Cool, and another called More Things. Fresh Food is involved in meat, produce, and other perishables warehousing, wholesale, and distribution to the grocery and restaurant industries. You can think of Fresh Food as the company that supplies grocery stores and restaurants with the food that you buy or enjoy at those locations. Climate Queen is involved in the design, manufacture, and sale of cooling systems for food storage and preservation, both static in the premises or mobile in trucks and delivery vehicles. Keep It Cool is a HVAC or refrigeration maintenance services and support organization that provides as needed or long-term contractual engagements to keep refrigeration and HVAC systems up and running. And finally, More Things is a company that probably is more familiar to us as Thread Group members, an Internet of Things technology and platform provider that provides both engineering services and consulting services, selling both a turnkey platform solution as well as components that other companies can embed and engineer into their own products and solutions. And in particular in these scenarios, More Things is offering an IoT hardware and software platform using Thread called Applique. So now the next couple slides, we'll walk through 4 scenarios that are sort of variations on a theme. In the following slides, you can use this as a legend to kind of understand some key terminology. Where we have an underline in orange that highlights an actor, where you see bold in orange that highlights a particular membership level or certification brand from the Thread Group, and italics in orange highlights a product. The initial scenario is that Fresh Food has provided money to Climate Queen and has purchased a Climate Queen cooler for refrigeration of the food that Fresh Food delivers to its customers. In all of the scenarios, there's a variation on this overall transaction in which Fresh Food is going to be interacting with either Keep It Cool or Climate Queen to either buy, lease, or contract a refrigeration monitor that Keep It Cool or Climate Queen has also in turn bought or acquired for More Things through its Applique platform, either as a built-on Thread product or as a Thread certified component. So the first scenario, Fresh Food is going to engage in a service contract with Climate Queen directly, from whom it originally purchased the cooler for cooler maintenance. Climate Queen, in turn, has purchased a More Things Applique built-on Thread certified product from More Things and has affected or built a refrigeration monitor from it that it can then provide to its customers. On request from Fresh Food Inc., Climate Queen goes ahead and installs this refrigeration monitor into Fresh Food's existing Climate Queen cooler, upgrading its capabilities. So what are the IPR impacts of this? More Things is an implementer Thread Group member, Better, and has certified More Things Applique as a built-on Thread certified product, and therefore More Things has intellectual property rights for More Things Applique. There is no intellectual property impact to either Fresh Food or Climate Queen. Both are simply consuming or using a turnkey built-on Thread certified product, and as a result, IPR ends at the built-on Thread certified product boundary. Neither Fresh Food or Climate Queen are creating any new products or any new functionality based on Thread. They're simply using it as end consumers. So throughout the rest of these scenarios, we put a little asterisk next to implementer and why implementer better. These scenarios are intentionally vague about whether we're talking about authorized test lab versus inherited certification, since these scenarios are generally meant to be generic and abstract, since the differences between ATL and inherited certification are somewhat a separate issue from these scenarios and their considerations. Again, remembering that inherited certification requires an implementer membership or better, and authorized test lab certification requires contributor membership or better. So the next scenario, we have a slightly different variation on the prior one. In this case, Fresh Food is not going directly to Climate Queen, from whom it purchased the cooler originally, but it's actually going to an independent service organization, Keep It Cool, for its cooler maintenance. In this particular case, Keep It Cool has also purchased a More Things Applique built-on Thread certified product from More Things, and has also, like the previous scenario with Climate Queen, has built a refrigeration monitor from it. In this case, Keep It Cool installs the refrigeration monitor into Fresh Food's existing cooler and has upgraded its capabilities. So what's the IPR impact of this? Just like before, More Things is an implementer or member, or better. They have certified More Things Applique as a built-on Thread certified product, and as a consequence, they have IPR rights for More Things Applique. As with the previous scenario, there's absolutely no impact to Fresh Food, Keep It Cool, or Climate Queen. Climate Queen, of course, is not an actor in this scenario at all. They sold the cooler initially, and they've been out of the loop since. And in both Fresh Food and Keep It Cool are simply like the prior scenario, consuming a built-on thread certified product and are just users of thread. They're simply using it. They're not creating new derived works. And again, the IPR boundary ends at built-on thread certified product boundary. So scenario C, we move from looking at using turnkey built-on thread certified products to looking at how things change slightly when we use thread certified components. In this case, as scenario A, Fresh Food engages in a service contract with Climate Queen for cooler maintenance. As with scenario A, Climate Queen purchases More Things applique, but rather than purchasing it as a product, they purchase it as a thread certified component. And again, they build an entirely new refrigeration monitor from it, either available for direct purchase by Climate Queen customers, such as Fresh Food, or made available for free to customers that are under a service contract. In addition, Climate Queen is now also offering a new build-to-order option of its cooler with this new refrigeration monitor SKU included. And in this particular scenario, since Fresh Food Inc. bought the cooler previously, Climate Queen is now upgrading in the field the capabilities of Fresh Food's existing cooler by installing this new refrigeration monitor. So what's the proposed IPR impact? In this case, as before, More Things is an implementer thread group member or better, and they have certified More Things applique, this time as a thread certified component. And as a consequence, More Things has intellectual property rights protection for More Things applique. In this case, Climate Queen is involved. They are also an implementer thread group member or better, and they have certified the new refrigeration monitor that they have built from applique as a built-on thread certified product. And this final point is a maybe. Depending on whether they have concerns about interoperability, branding, and things like that, and they want to use the thread brand, they may choose to certify the cooler plus refrigeration monitor as a built-on thread certified product, but they're not obligated to, since again, the IPR ends at the refrigeration monitor as a built-on thread certified end product. So again, this scenario is just a little bit different than scenario B, in which a built-on thread certified product is being combined into another larger product, making a compound product. So again, we believe there's no IPR motivating decision to Climate Queen, as we talked about, simply a product or marketing decision on whether they want to certify and thread brand that combined cooler plus refrigeration monitor as a thread certified product. But again, that's simply a business and marketing decision, not a legal and intellectual property decision. And of course, there's no IPR impact for Fresh Food. As in all these scenarios, Fresh Food is simply consuming a built-on thread certified product in which the IPR ends at that boundary. And again, Fresh Food is not creating anything new or any existing functionality based on thread. They're simply using it as an end consumer. Last scenario. In this scenario, very similar to the prior one, we vary it only by replacing Climate Queen as the intermediary with Keep It Cool. In this case, More Things is selling applique to Keep It Cool, and Keep It Cool is affecting a new refrigeration monitor SKU from it. And that's available for direct purchase by Keep It Cool customers, such as Fresh Food, or again, made available for free to service contract customers. In this particular case, Keep It Cool, rather than Climate Queen, is upgrading Fresh Food's existing Climate Queen cooler by installing the refrigeration monitor inside of it. As with scenario C, the IPR impact of this is that More Things is still an implementer thread group member or better. They have certified applique as a thread certified component, and as a consequence, they have IP right protection for More Things applique. Likewise, in the scenario Keep It Cool is also an implementer member or better. They have certified the refrigeration monitor as a built-on thread certified product, and as a consequence, they also have IPR protection for their refrigeration monitor. As with scenario C, there's no impact in this case for Fresh Food, and in this case, Climate Queen. As with all the scenarios, Fresh Food is simply consuming and using a thread certified product, and the IPR ends at that boundary. And again, they're not creating anything new based on thread. They're simply using it as an end customer. And in this particular scenario, like scenario B, Climate Queen is not an actor at all. So I know that's a lot to digest, and for those of you on the call who are members and have access to the Thread Group portal, we have a document version of that portion of our presentation available as well. But hopefully this clarifies a couple of complex scenarios that really serve as a great follow-on to Tom's part of the presentation that demonstrates, despite a lot of different complexity that can arise from combining Thread technology into different products and solutions, Thread has IPR coverage for those solutions that provide you the ability as a Thread adopter to ship and provide Thread solutions with no royalty or few royalties.
All right, thank you, Grant and Tom. This is Sujatha back on to wrap up the call and then start the Q&A. Again, I'm Sujatha Neidig with NXP on Thread Group as the VP of Marketing. So great, a lot like Grant said, there was a lot of material covered in this presentation and it will be posted for your reference on Thread Group's website. As a follow-up action, if you're not already a member, please review our member benefits. Like Grant said, it's on our website. You can join at the appropriate level for your company's desired engagement. We have several levels to address the various needs. If you're ready to start working on a Thread solution to take to the market, then join us at the implementer level or higher. And also check out our developer resources page at the threadgroup.org website. There's a developers landing page where we've put all kinds of information about the Thread ecosystem and different components and modules and software and support that's available to help you get started. And also, if you want something more high level, we have quite a number of resources on our website with white papers, blogs, videos, things like that. So please check that out. And as a reminder, we're also on social media under LinkedIn and Twitter. We have a YouTube channel, so please view those places for updates or follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter to get updates from us on a regular basis. And you can also sign up for our newsletter, which we issue 3 times a year. And lastly, I just want to remind folks that if you join Thread Group or are a member of Thread Group, our next member meeting is in Zug, Switzerland, November 5th through the 7th. This meeting is open to all sponsor, contributor, and implementer members, and registration can be found at the threadgroup.org website. At these member meetings, we do working sessions with our committees. So just want to give you an outline of what the structure of Thread Group looks like. We have our board of directors, and then we have 4 committees. The executive committee is made up of the board of directors, but the certification, marketing, and technical committees are open to contributor and sponsor members. The implementers are welcome to participate in any of these working groups that are focused on Thread 1.1 or 1.2. And if you want to work on future generation or next generation activities, then you would join at the contributor or sponsor level. So with that, I will now start off the Q&A portion. One of the first questions I see, I'll go ahead and take that, and then Grant, feel free to jump in if you want to add to it.